You're joining the Loudr Lawyer Network, the podcast where we sit down with the law firm owners, attorneys, and visionaries that are making the most noise in the legal landscape nationwide to find out the secrets to their success. Other podcasts think they're getting loud, but we're getting louder. Let's get into it.
Hey, welcome to the Loudr Lawyer Network. I'm Raje, and the Loudr Lawyer Network, where we help attorneys scale to $1 million months through powerful strategies and connections. This morning, I have Zino Osehobo. Welcome to the show, man.
How you doing, Raje? Thanks for having me, man.
Hey, man. Hey, welcome here, man. Yeah, thanks. Hey, man, I was looking at, first of all, I have to say, you've established such a unique firm, if you will. You know, a firm that's rooted in foundation of grace. From the Bible. I see the scriptures and things of that nature. Take me back, though. I want to go back. Take me back when you were small. When did you know that you wanted to be an attorney, and what type of attorney you wanted to be?
You know, let's see. Well, I come from a family of doctors and pharmacists, and so I really just didn't think about doing really anything else. I thought I would just be in the medical field naturally, didn't really think about it too much. And then high school, you know, I'm getting C's in chemistry and biology. And I'm realizing maybe I should look into something else. And so I'm figuring, you know, I might go consider being a lawyer or even like a pilot, you know, like a commercial pilot.
Are you going to fly? Okay.
I thought about it, and then I realized you have to do well in physics, which I was also getting C's in to be a pilot. So I was kind of like floating around. You know, I turned 17 years old, and that is the same year Trayvon Martin, who's also 17, is shot and killed by George Zimmerman. And so I remember you could watch that trial. It was kind of like the first trial of like televised, like really kind of like my generation. And I watched that trial, and I realized, you know, George Zimmerman being found not guilty, it really piqued my interest into the field of law. I didn't know if I wanted to be a prosecutor yet, you know, or a criminal defense attorney, but I knew that, wow, there's like an impact that happens here that affects people's lives, similar to what doctors do. And I think from that point, I was like, let me pursue law, specifically criminal. And then kind of going from there, you know, in college and even law school, I did work at the prosecutor's office as well as for a criminal defense attorney. And I realized that, yeah, my heart is with criminal defense. I just couldn't see myself waking up every day, and my job is to put Black and brown people away primarily. So that's kind of the path of how I came into law and then into specifically criminal defense.
Oh, man, you took me back down to that day. You know, when I think of Trayvon Martin, I think about, you know, Skittles, you know, that was a really big impact. Just the whole thing. He just, you know, him wearing his hoodie, just everything that was about that, man. That was it was an innocent kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He was just a kid, just walking, doing his thing. And that's where the whole, it was that must have had much major impact, man. I mean,
sure.
to see George Zimmerman, as we all know, to get acquitted and get let off of that with nothing is
it was impactful. And it honestly steered me towards prosecution at first. I was like, okay, you know, I want to be able to maybe be a community prosecutor. I want to be able to get people justice. And then that was kind of like my first thought. But, you know, after further diving into it and realizing how the system is overall, you know, George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin are kind of like one small part of an entire system that has a lot of fractures and problems in it. So, yeah, that was definitely an impactful case, at least, you know, was the beginning of the journey for sure.
So I said at the beginning that very impactful, like you were saying. You wanted to be a doctor, the grades weren't hitting it and stuff. C grades aren't bad now. C grades aren't bad.
I agree.
You know, you can see your way to a degree still.
Yeah, in the Nigerian family, they're horrible.
Okay, I understand. Yeah, my father's a doctor, so I totally understand the path. Take me to law school. How was law school?
Law school was amazing. I went to Pepperdine School of Law, and what drew me there out of the other two schools I got into was the fact that they actually sent, law students along with prosecutors to Africa. It's this weird system that was it's still going on today, but it's called the Global Justice Initiative. And basically, what they would do is they would get prosecutors from the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office, and they would get law students from Pepperdine, and they would send us to Uganda, Rwanda. And what we would do there is, because in those countries, they didn't have a public defender program like they do here. I know people complain about, how the government defense lawyers they have their own problems here, but imagine being in a country that doesn't have it at all. And so there are people who their cases were backed up for years, something that they would have been certainly served their time for. They've been in jail for 5, 6, 7 years simply because there's no lawyer to represent them, right? And so our school basically created this program that allowed us to work with prosecutors. We got to kind of switch to the other side and go to Africa and try to create plea bargains, basically. And we worked with the Supreme Court. We worked with the government prosecuting office. And so we got to a point where we really got to be immersed in that kind of system. And I really experienced some impactful cases. I'm not going to lie. Doing that for my entire, so it was 10 weeks in the summer. And I remember the first one I worked on was a woman who was pregnant, who basically killed her abuser. And here she would certainly be kind of found innocent a little bit quickly.
Right.
They would support her. They'd see her as a victim.
Right.
But there, she had spent basically the entirety of her pregnancy in custody and was about to do several more years there until we came. And I was able to work with the prosecutor to get her a plea bargain for manslaughter that basically released her. And
wow,
I kind of saw, wow, this is what I want to be doing. I want to make this type of impact for people.
So you were able to get everything that you would hear about a case, not being an attorney yet. You were able to get all that information, being able to look over the case and make decisions that led you to where you are now.
Absolutely, yes. I remember I worked with he's a deputy in charge now at the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office, but his name was Kenneth Ma, Kennes Ma, M-A, and he was a prosecutor, and he kind of said, so some other prosecutors, they would be hands-on with their law students, but I was lucky. He said, Zino, negotiate with the prosecutors. Tell me what you're thinking. He kind of sat back and let me do my thing. I'm thankful for that because it let me kind of step into that shoes years earlier than I would have as a lawyer, and that feeling is what solidified, I got to do criminal defense. I have to try to get people that second chance.
Wow, man. That's a remarkable story, man. It's you think of someone being out there in the wild, just being let go, and you got to go back to the motherland and start there. Those roots right there, man. That's beautiful.
It was a God divine situation where I always knew I was setting my own course, but God was definitely ordering my steps. And that's why when I finally started my law firm, I made sure that it was very Christ-centered.
Right. That you lead me to my next question. What made you? When you finished law school, did you immediately go to work for a firm, or did you go out solo right out the gate?
I went solo right out the gate. I mean, in law school, I worked for the district attorney because after that African trip, I did go to work at the prosecutor's office for a year. I wanted to just make sure, okay, I don't want to do criminal defense, but let me see what the other side really does and what they do on a day to day. So I worked there for a year, and I really found, like in law school, I found that it just wasn't for me. There was situations where a homeless person would have a knife to defend themselves in the streets of LA, and the mayor would send police to go and clean out the homeless encampments, and they would find a knife with the person, and they'd arrest them for possession of a dirk or a dagger. And this person who has no resources is now in jail, which one could argue is a better situation than being on the street. Right. You're getting meals. But it was a situation where, the prosecutor I was working with, he had been there for, I think, like 6 years, and he didn't even have the discretion to dismiss it or give an offer that he wanted. He had to go to his 20-year prosecutor boss, who basically said, no, let's just go ahead and continue with this prosecution. And from there, I kind of saw that. I was like, this is not what I want to be doing. I don't want to be working for 10 years just to not have any control over my own cases. So then I went and worked for who's now still my mentor. His name's Austin Dove. He's a criminal defense lawyer. He's been doing it for 30 years. In my opinion, the best criminal defense lawyer in Los Angeles. Worked for him, and I saw the same type of impact I was able to make in Africa through his work. And he was really, changing people's lives. And so that solidified it for me. I asked him for a job. I said, hey, I'm finishing law school soon. Will you hire me? And he was like, you don't want me to hire you, man. You can do better than me. Start your own firm. Wow. Yeah. He said, start your own firm. And I was like, really? He's like, absolutely. I'll support you. Start your own firm. And I did that, and the rest is history.
Wow. I know that you stated earlier that everything is Christ-centered, and that's beautiful, and that's bold. Standing on that boldness on Christ is a beautiful thing. A lot of people don't do that in their business, and you can see where it's taking you in terms of your success. Tell me about your first case on your own, what that was like, and what that did for you in terms of motivation and building.
Absolutely. So yeah, I'm starting the firm. I was doing appearances for lawyers that I knew to get some money in, and then eventually while I'm at the courthouse, a family comes up to me and they say, hey, I see you're a Black lawyer. I really want to have a Black lawyer representing us. Can you represent us? And back then you'll do it for $1,000, which is very low for what people generally charge for the same case. It was a firearm possession case. And but I charged that because my first client, I wanted to get in and do my best for him. And Grace Legal Group is on the foundation of everything that Jesus has done for me so far. Sending me to law school, showing me certain things when I was in Africa, showing me certain things when I was at prosecutor offices, as well as Austin Dove's office. And so just like that, I knew I could trust and rely that God would give me the wisdom to get what needs to be done. And so I got the case, I got the police report, and I'm praying and I'm saying, hey, tell me what I'm supposed to be doing here, because I want to do my best for them. I don't want anyone to suffer because I'm not competent or I don't know what I'm doing, even though I feel like I did. And like clockwork, obviously I go to my mentor. He tells me what he would do. Then that kind of leads me to a book that's called, we call it CEB. It's Continued Education of the Bar. I kind of see it on his shelf. He didn't tell me to read it, but I see it on his shelf, and I just say, let me just grab that really quick. It kind of stood out to me. Again, I think that's really just divine intervention there. So I'm picking up the book, I'm reading it. It's kind of giving me a manual on how to represent your clients to the best of your ability. So I'm reading that, and in that book, I see that you have the ability to get felonies reduced to a misdemeanor. So felonies are, charges that you're looking at years in prison. Misdemeanors, you're looking up to 1 year in jail. And so it showed me in there's a motion I could write and file, and had a template for it too, for me to reduce the felony to a misdemeanor. So reducing prison exposure to jail exposure. And then I saw that once you make it a misdemeanor, there's another motion you can do called diversion that gets the misdemeanor just completely dismissed.
Wow.
No conviction on your record. Again, just like divine revelations that really kind of led to the result that I got. And so I do that path. I see that in the book. I asked my mentor about it. He's like, yeah, you should do that. And I execute. I write those 2 motions. And basically in a couple months, this 20-year-old who was just visiting from Nevada, but got arrested for having a firearm in the backseat of his car. He was scared. He wants to go and become, an IT specialist. He wants to go to school for that. And having a felony on his record would destroy that for him.
Mm.
So being able to take this path with the 2 motions allowed us to basically get his case dismissed with no record on him. And the prosecutor was trying to give him 16 months in prison. That's what they were pushing. They said, okay, I understand he's young. It's his first offense. So instead of giving him the max, which is 3 years in prison, we'll give him 16 months. And I was just like, that's not a gift. That's still horrible for him. He's young. I can't imagine myself at 20 doing 16 days in prison, let alone 16 months. So that kind of path and that motions that we wrote, and the judge saying that the motion was well written and granting the motion really set a foundation where I was like, wow, I can do this. I can trust in God. I can, pray for wisdom. He'll provide that. And I just leave the outcomes in his hands, and it will always work out.
Man, that statement right there, I don't know how you market and stuff, but that's the marketing tool right there. I mean, your truth, real talk, man. That's a beautiful moment right there. Giving this young man a chance at having a future without having to go through the agony of having to be in jail and prison, because we know that's a lot of our people do not end up in great places after that happens. So that's huge.
Thank you.
That's kind of like your Johnny Cochran moment.
From your lips to God's ears, man. I'd love to do as well as Cochran did.
Man, you on your way. I can see that. Tell me, in the criminal world, you have a lot of they say that it's like the good boys club. You see like people that you gotta have to look. You see people that band together in certain areas. Like there's a code of ethics and things of that nature. Have you found, with standing for what you stand for, like you're really taking the law and biblically, through Christ and everything, have you found opposition to that among your peers? And if so, how have you stood by that?
Absolutely. So I have some staff now, and one of my associate attorneys told me she went to court and joined a new case for us. And when she let the public defender know that she's joining the case for Grace Legal Group, the public defender said kind of snarkily, "Oh, you're that firm that believes if you pray hard enough, the criminals will get free." So that's kind of like the bullying that we get. What I learned really early on is that this profession is really full of a bunch of grown high schoolers who kind of never left high school, and they still see it as an opportunity to bully people and try to bring people down. I don't really get it, but for me, I rely on Matthew chapter 5, and that scripture tells us that when you're ridiculed and mocked for following Jesus, you're blessed. And so Jesus went through the same thing. So when I heard that, I really laughed, and I was like, wow, it's true. I'm thankful that people are even seeing that we are a Christian law firm, that we stand on our beliefs. We believe that preparation goes hand in hand with prayer, and it leads to victory. We absolutely believe that. And if people want to make fun of us for it, my faith tells me that I'm blessed for that. So it definitely happens. I welcome it. What someone they can make fun of us all they want for our belief in Jesus and why we think it's really the core of why we're so successful, but they can't mock the results. You know, my last two trials were an attempted murder and a murder trial where my clients were innocent, and by God's grace, I got not guilty verdicts on them.
Wow.
So we've helped over 500 people. You know, I think we have over 200 5-star reviews on Google, and we've only been open for 4 years.
Wow, man. That's
So they
impressive.
can make fun of us all they want, but again, like the word says, we're blessed.
Oh yeah, that's truly a blessing, man. Tell me, you tossing around names for the law firm. A lot of people do things in their name. What made you come up with the Grace Legal Group? And are you attracting the type of attorneys that you're pulling in that walk in faith? How does that come about?
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, every law firm is usually someone's name. I was not interested in just making my name famous. It's not my goal. My faith tells me that my goal in life should be to spread the gospel and to spread the name of Jesus.
Matthew 28:19.
There we go. So when I started the firm, my thought is, you know, the number one platform that God has provided me to do that is the law firm. And so I wanted to be very clear that, you know, grace is giving people, you know, what they don't deserve necessarily, you know, showing them that
The same way Jesus shows us.
the same way Jesus shows us. And so I want to be very clear that, you know, grace is at the center of criminal defense. If Jesus came back today, I think you'd be hard pressed to argue that he would be a prosecutor. I truly know that he would, if you had to choose between the two, he'd realistically be a criminal defense attorney. And so I wanted people to know that, you know, for the people who are relying on him and praying to him and hoping for that second chance, for that mercy, for that grace, I want them to know that this is a law firm where we believe that exact same thing alongside with you. And we're going to use our best skills and the wisdom God gives us to get you that grace. So that's why I called it Grace Legal Group. Also, you know, soft shout out to my dad. The clinic's not open anymore, but he started a medical clinic and he called it Grace Medical Clinic. And so I kind of heard that. I asked him the kind of the same thing, and he kind of saw it the same way, that, you know, grace is healing, and he wanted people to know that when they come to his clinic, they're receiving that supernatural healing that God uses through him. And so that's why we call it Grace Legal Group. As for the attorneys we attract, we get all types of applications because we are successful, but clients and attorneys alike, for sure, have reached out to us because they know that by calling the firm Grace Legal Group, they get to work alongside lawyers who share the same faith as them. So even though I don't require it, and it's not like I will even ask you it in your interview, every lawyer who works here loves the name of Jesus and decides to serve people because of their faith.
Wow.
So that's a blessing for us too.
That's truly a blessing. Now, I've heard you talk about you talked about where you're placed in Google. You got over 200 gold stars, 5 stars.
200 5-star reviews, I believe.
5-star review. You've done in 4 years. You've helped over 500 people. I've heard about the victories and the belief and the faith. Tell me about your first failure and not being able to get what you wanted for your client, and how that made you feel internally, and because of the reputation and what you stand for. And I don't see pride in you at all. I see a man that doesn't. You have a selfless type personality just through this conversation.
Sure.
Tell me about the failures, the when you didn't get what you wanted?
Absolutely. I think you learn way more from the losses than you do from the successes, for sure. So I wouldn't be where I'm at without those failures. But yeah, let me bring up some. There was, I'll talk about two, and
Okay.
they involve trial, right? So the first one, I had a client who he was arrested for DUI. Now the truth is, he was drunk, but he wasn't driving. DUI is literally driving under the influence. The person who was driving, it was his vehicle, but the person who was driving was undocumented, right? And when they got into an accident because of the whatever happened, the traffic accident, the driver was so afraid he would be deported, he asked my client to say he was the driver. My client, in hindsight, you know, told them he was the driver, but realized that that wasn't smart because he was also drunk. And so when they did all the field sobriety tests to confirm that he was under the influence and then admitting he was the driver, the police felt that they had the the elements to basically convict him beyond a reasonable doubt. And so they took him in. He went to jail, and I went to him and I started working up the case. I told him, hey, we got to bring that guy in to tell the truth. Even though he was afraid of being deported, he had already run away to Mexico. And so I wasn't really able to bring him in. I was able to talk to him on the phone, and to an extent, I could have tried to figure out him testifying via video. But I talked to my client, talked to the prosecutor. The prosecutor was willing to give him probation and let him out. And my client was a father. His wife and kids missed him, obviously. And so I told him that. I said, hey, man, you know, you can plead no contest, take this deal. You'll be convicted of DUI. You might lose your license for a little bit, but you can get it back. But you'll get home. Or we can go to trial. And I can try to get your friend to testify on video or have him come back. You know, I don't know. And he basically asked me my opinion, and I said, it's really up to you. But my professional opinion is, you know, if you kind of want to go home, I would take the deal. So he kind of went with that. He thought about it, talked to his wife, and he decided on his own to take the deal. I found out later that the friend actually lied about going to Mexico and was here in California the whole time. And if I had hired an investigator to confirm that, I would have been able to subpoena him, bring him to court, force him to tell the truth, and my client would not have a conviction on his record.
Right.
So that was a situation where I learned thorough investigation and not just taking things at face value can change someone's life.
Absolutely.
My client, he's happy he got out at the time that he did, but in hindsight, I take that as a failure on my end to not do a thorough investigation. On the flip side, my first murder trial was a guilty verdict, unfortunately. And there was close to 1,000 videos, and I watched all of them. My client, basically, the long story short, he was being harassed by this gang member. He was being threatened. On video, you can see the gang member pulling a gun out, kind of pointing it at him. So I was basically trying to explain to the prosecutor that this guy was harassing my client. Unfortunately, my client tells me that he basically went to the car, grabbed his gun in protection. The guy kind of followed him. So my client turns around and shoots him and basically kills him. There's a murder trial. So my whole thing is self-defense, or at minimum, imperfect self-defense, which would reduce a murder to a manslaughter.
Right.
So I'm making that. I say, hey man, they're offering him 15 to life. Eventually, they up the offer to 25 to life. I tell him, man, I think we have a good trial. We have a good strategy. And so I say, let's go to trial. We go to trial. I'm making the argument that he basically acted in self-defense. I show the videos to the jury of this guy threatening him with the gun and kind of walking out of the camera view to support what my client said. They were following him. But there was one video in that 1,000 videos that actually showed my client was driving. Basically, he drove home. He drove 2 minutes to his house to grab the gun. Instead of walking to his car, he drove to his house, grabbed the gun, came back. And that eliminates self-defense because you could have left. You could
and not returned.
Not returned. He said it turned into like, I need to defend myself in that moment, to I have to get this guy before he gets me. And the law is very clear that you can't do that. That's not self-defense. No. And it kind of showed me that even though there's 1,000 videos, even if your client tells you he just walked to the parking lot, it's my job to do the fullest and most thorough review of the evidence as much as I can. I didn't realize that car on that video was his car. It was a generic silver sedan. I didn't even clock that could be his vehicle. I just trusted my client. But yeah, he drove home, came back with the gun, then shot the guy. And that ended up getting him sentenced, found guilty of murder and sentenced to 40 years to life. And, I leave him in God's hands, and I'm praying for him almost every month that, some law changes that allows him to come home. But yeah, that was, another failure that I'm just like, okay, I have to think even beyond what my client's telling me. I have to watch these videos more than once, more than twice, and consider every angle. So those two examples, one where I didn't go to trial and one where I did, taught me the most important lesson of thorough investigation.
The other thing, though, you being a Christian man, and I say this boldly, pray for discernment and wisdom, even with the clients that you're taking on, because the devil's a liar. Right? The devil's a liar, man. There's no truth in him. So, a lot of people with criminal intent tend to do that. We all have that within us. You know what I mean? Separating, right and wrong, and are finding ways to cheat to get out of something. So
exactly. I'm always praying that God, the clients who choose to trust us and sign up with them, make sure that you're sending them. Bring us the people that you want us to help specifically. Please protect me from the type of clients who can put my license at risk and life at risk. I've definitely been threatened by clients before.
You have? Tell me about one of those.
Man, it's just a situation where there are clients that, to be very, very frank and upfront, there are clients who, I had one client, one of my early murder cases, he kind of just, as an initiation for a gang, had to kill someone. And so the reality is, he did that, and it's on video, and there's witnesses, and his vehicle is the one that he used to do the shooting, and there's gunshot residue on his hands. And when he was talking to the police, he didn't really deny it, which in the criminal law is basically a confession. There's like so much overwhelming evidence that it was him. But his parents and family don't see it that way. So, they're pressing me in court, and they're just kind of saying, on Crip, you better do this, this, and this. I'm going to come to your office and and, you better figure this out. And it's like, I'm not worried actually though, because I know God has me for a greater purpose. So he'll protect me. I have no fear in those situations. But the reality is, like, sometimes families don't really see reason. I think that type of erratic thinking trickles down to the way they raise their children sometimes, which leads them into the outcomes that they're in. And I've certainly been threatened by cartel, Mexican mafia, Crip, blood, grandmas.
So Zeno, I just have to ask you, if you know that someone's guilty, if you see that they're guilty, right, and you're discerning that, why take the case and still try and find an outcome?
Absolutely. So there's two types of cases, right? You have to analyze if it's a who did it. So can they prove beyond a reasonable doubt it's my client who did the crime? And then the other one is like, is it a what is it? So what you're talking about is a what is it? You don't want to, basically, you don't want to live in a country where people are put in prison and found guilty because the police and the prosecutor think so. You don't want that. You want the system as best as it can be, where the government has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt to 12 random people from the community that they are damn near 100% sure this is the person who did it, and the elements of the charge are actually accurate. So when you're talking about a what is it, right? My client might be guilty of something, but he might not be guilty of what you charged him with, right? So for example, a husband comes home and he walks into his bedroom and he sees his wife basically having sex with the man, and the man's on top of the wife, and the wife screams out rape, right? He grows and grabs
the husband walks in.
Right. So that's thousands of cases like that. But walks in, he's angry, he's scared, he grabs a gun, he shoots the man, right? In that example, okay, there's two things that are going on there. Number one, you can argue just straight self-defense, or defense of others. That's a pure defense. It makes them innocent of the charges, right? Because you're trying to protect them from that. But let's say, for example, you have caught your wife before with this same man, and you know that it's not a rape, right? You're just angry, and you went out of your way to shoot him. This is a real case that's happened, right? That's not necessarily murder, though. That is voluntary manslaughter, because you were under the heat of passion. Right?
Passion crime.
There you go. You were so angry, and you were like, you know what? This is a real case. Like they called it rape, but you knew it wasn't rape. You were just angry, and you wanted to put an end to this, so you use that as an excuse. And that's not murder. That's heat of passion. So, but the prosecutor chooses to charge the husband with murder, right? In that example, you're guilty of a killing, but you're not guilty of what they charged you with, right? Or another example, homes get burglarized all the time by people who break into homes and steal things. But then those same people will go and sell the stuff that they stole to other people. We all know that. Now, let's say the person who bought the thing that was stolen is later found with it, right? The police and prosecutor will usually assume that the person who bought the stuff is the person who burglarized the home. Now, the person who bought the stuff might even be aware that the stuff that they bought is stolen, but that doesn't make them guilty of burglary. It makes them guilty of receiving stolen property, which is a different charge, which actually has less time. It's not a strike. So there's a lot of cases like that where my client isn't innocent, but you didn't charge him correctly, right? A burglary, that comes with up to maybe 4 or 6 years in prison. That's different than someone who bought stolen property where they knew it was stolen. That person should probably get probation and just pay the stuff back. Different things going on. So a lot of times I listen to my clients, I look and see if the prosecutor is charging them correctly, and you find out very quickly that most of the time, above 80%, the prosecutors do not charge the right charge. and you need defense lawyers to really bring out the truth and make sure the actual justice is served. That answers your question.
Yes. Looking at where you've gone in terms of your practice and building your practice, are you open to? I take it just from what you're telling me, you work a lot in the hood and things of that nature, right?
Yeah.
In the streets, helping families that are, may not have the means to afford, a high price attorney and things of that nature, but you're getting those, high end you're getting those high end results that the late Cochrans did and things of that nature, right?
Right.
How do you market? Have you gone about marketing going through the wide how do you get your clients?
Absolutely. Quick note, Raj, your screen has the
Yeah,
rainbow.
I see that. I don't know rainbow. I don't know how that happened.
This is why we edit.
Hold on. Let me get my cousin there. Find out what happened there. See if I can.
It's probably a wire might have gotten loose somewhere.
Hold on, real quick, you guys.
You're crushing it, by the way, Zino. This is great.
Thanks, Will. Appreciate it. I know some cars kept coming up. I hope that's okay.
We can. That's what editors are for. They got magic things they can do to video. So it's all good, man. It's
Awesome.
going to be good stuff. Yeah, and then you're dropping nuggets that are going to be great for those clips. So
sweet.
Yeah, man.
Okay, this is going to be one that I'm going to have to figure out. Brandon left. I'm the only one up here. Hold on. Let me see.
Is it a cable issue? Oop. Hey. Oop. Up. Oop.
Okay, hold on. Let me see. It looks like it might be the battery
on the camera.
Which, if it is,
here's what I would suggest you do, Raje.
Yeah.
Go to the laptop.
Okay.
Down there at the bottom, you see there's a microphone, and then next to that, there's like a camera icon.
On
the laptop and the StreamYard screen.
Yeah, I see the camera.
Okay, so click that arrow next to the camera and choose the camera that's connected to your computer.
It says USB video. Well, no.
Choose the camera, the computer that's connected to the camera. What are the options that you have there?
I hit my, hold on. It says USB video. There we go.
Yeah, let's finish it up like this. This is good.
All right, man. Good things. I just got to pick up where I was with technical difficulties. So, my last point to you that I was trying to get across. How do you get across your marketing efforts to reach the masses, not even just the individuals that are in the hood? Like, it's say that another person, like a white person, wanted to. Have you represented clients that have been other than people of color?
Absolutely. We have this one video actually out right now where one of the comments was, "Do you represent white people?"
But because I'm listening, and you have some gang members, you have these individuals. I mean, I think because of who you are as an individual, I think you need to be on that mass scale among the masses.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, yeah. We represent white people.
Crossing over, if you will, crossover.
Sure. Everyone of all races, I can tell you for sure, of all races, they commit crimes. So we definitely helped white people, Asians, Hispanic, Latino, Black, of course, African, East Indian, stuff like that. So there's no worries at all. What we do though to market primarily, because everyone, when we join the game, everyone's on Google, everyone's mastered SEO, but something that hadn't been really covered yet, which is new and emerging for lawyers, I suppose, is like social media and like podcasts like this. So
yeah,
we made our Instagram page. I think we have 30,000 followers now on Instagram, and we just kept putting out content. We put content out every day. We do podcasts. We do skits here and there. We give information. We have a segment where people leave us very mean and racist comments, and we just react to them and to create even more content. So right now, primarily putting out stuff on social media and spreading that across California, where we practice, has been the best way for people of all races to find us and hear about us.
Right. Okay, that sounds good. I want to talk to you about that a little bit more. We'll talk about that after the podcast, because here at Loudr Media specialize in creating those moments, So there was something that was on that I was going to get. It slipped my tongue. Hold on a second. This is what I was going to ask you. What what myth in your field as a criminal attorney that most people feel about criminal attorneys needs to be put to rest?
Okay, so I think it's like two things. Number one, that just because you're charged with the crime doesn't mean you're guilty of the crime. Kind of what we talked about earlier. We post our results. Our clients look forward to taking photos with us after we get them their result. We post that on our Instagram, and the comments we get under that is like, for example, I'll be like, 4 charges dismissed, and people will comment under just simply, "Oh, good job letting that hardened criminal back on the street." And it's like, why would it be dismissed if he was a hardened criminal, right? Literally, the whole reason that there's criminal defense lawyers is so that you can hold the government to their burden, and so they can find out, oh, you know what, we made the wrong, or not even us, the police made the wrong call. Because what happens is the police will arrest people, and then they'll write a report based on what they think, and then they'll give it to the prosecutor, and the prosecutor has to decide whether or not they can prove their case. We come in and we explain to them alibi, or these are the wrong charges, or my client didn't do this by himself. He was there, but that doesn't mean he did what you said he was doing. All types of stuff. And for it to be dismissed, just completely dismissed, 9 times out of 10, it proves their innocence, or like they had the wrong charges. Right. They think it's the opposite. If I got charges dismissed 9 times out of 10, it must mean that he was guilty, and I just did some type of magic voodoo loophole to get it thrown out. And that's not how life works.
Right.
If my client did it and if there's proof there, it's not going to be dismissed. So there's always there. And then the second myth I would say is that lawyers do this for the money. I know plenty of great lawyers, public defenders and private alike, who do what they do because they believe in justice, and they believe in defending the Constitution, and they believe in giving people second chances. We might be Grace Legal Group, where we believe with grace there's always a second chance, but we're certainly not the only lawyers who think that. And there's this thing where people feel that the price that we may give them for a case is because all we care about is money, but that's not true. The reason that we would charge a certain price is because to get the victories that we do, that requires resources, right? Like I said, the hours spent watching 1,000 videos, or right, even paying for the hard drives to put the videos on, let alone the investigators, let alone the time spent writing motions, like in my first case. So resources are where we get the victory, and that's why we charge the prices that we do. A lot of people think that we just charge a certain amount because we just want to, all we care about is money and we just want to be paid because we're lawyers, neener, we're better than you. Some lawyers think that way, but the vast majority of lawyers do not. Public defenders certainly do not. And a lot of private lawyers I know do it because they actually love defending justice. So those two myths right there, that just because you're charged with a crime, that means you're automatically guilty. And then number two, that lawyers only care about money. These are just false narratives that aren't true.
True, very true. There was something I was going to ask you. I'm take you back to the case where you said you looked at the 1,000 videos in that moment that you missed with the car, with the defendant driving home to get the gun and come back and shoot the victim. Have you ever got somebody off and you find out that they were the bad guy anyway? And how did that make you feel?
Yeah, there was a case where, let's see here. There's a case where my client was newly married to the love of his life, but the woman he married had some kind of baggage with her baby daddy. And the baby daddy kept coming over to the house, threatening them with the gun, harassing them, punching out the tires with the knife, spray painting the driveway. Harassment that my client endured the entire first year of his marriage. So finally, this guy comes over again to do his harassing, and my client allegedly opens the window and shoots a gun and says, "Get out of here." He didn't hit him, but it's like near him. So he was eventually the baby daddy goes to the police and they arrest my client for firing a weapon at a vehicle or whatever. The whole time they're telling me that he didn't do it, he's lying. And I believe them because there was a year worth of evidence of this guy harassing them. So I wouldn't put it past him to lie about my client. So I get that case dismissed because I tell the prosecutor, if you put that guy on the stand, I'm going to establish him as a stalker, a harasser, and someone who's just jealous that the mother of his children moved on, and he just doesn't he wants to lie on the new husband. And the prosecutor was like, "Yeah, you're right. I don't want that smoke," and dismissed the charges. So yay, victory. We moved on. Only for them to tell me later, no, I did shoot at him. He was coming to harass me and I wanted to stop. So that was an example where it's like, okay, well, again, that comes down to you don't want to live in a society where, guilt or innocent, don't want to live in a society where someone's found guilty just because the prosecution thinks so, or because a victim just comes on the street and says, this happened. The standard always has to be, can the government prove it beyond a reasonable doubt? In that case, they couldn't. A jury probably would have acquitted my client because this guy has every reason to lie, and he's not a good guy himself. But in that example, he was guilty of shooting at a vehicle, so was justice served? I mean, it depends on who you ask. I think some people might think he got what's coming to him, and I'm glad the guy didn't get in trouble for, defending his home, so it's kind of up to you to decide, but that's a situation for sure where I've gotten a guy off and he definitely was guilty of it.
Okay. And it brings me to my question right now. We're going to wrap it up with this. What does Loudr Lawyer mean to you when you hear the term Loudr Lawyer?
A Loudr Lawyer is someone who is focused on impact on the community, right? They come into whatever practice area they're in, whether it's criminal, personal injury, malpractice, whatever. They go into that representation. They fight for that client with the sole purpose of making an impact for that client and the greater community. They're not timid. They're not shy. They're not in it for just the money. They go to work and they want people to know that they go to work for justice, and whether or not they have to go on a podcast to let people know what they've done, or they let their review speak for itself. Their focus as a Loudr Lawyer is to make impact in everything that they do. And I hope that I embody those principles as well myself.
Not only do you embody those principles, but you speak them, man. You speak them. Your action speaks louder than your words. I want to thank you for being here on the Loudr Lawyer Network. Look forward to seeing the great things you do, man. Keep going.
Thank you, Raje. I appreciate you. Thank you for the time.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for being a part of the Loudr Lawyer Network. If you're enjoying the conversation, let us know. Give us a like and subscribe to never miss a thing. We'll see you next time right here on the Loudr Lawyer Network.